but my name is Chris Scheckinger. I'm the Director of Sales here at CBiz in Kansas City. Have been with CBiz over 10 years in the business development role the entire time I've been there. And have met Brendan probably 4 or 5 years ago and developed a good friendship with her. And she was gracious enough to ask me to join this call today. And Brendan, if you can hear me, I'm having difficulty unmuting everybody, so I apologize for that. Anyway, so I wanted to kind of just share some nuggets with you on things that I do that could potentially help you all in your business when you're going out looking for new opportunities. Early on in my career, I started out at ADP selling payroll services right out of college. So I learned pretty quickly that you had to adapt and improvise. And one thing I learned is not to take no from someone that can't give me a yes. I know it sounds kind of funny, but when you're selling payroll, which is a commodity, and everybody's selling payroll services, I would get blocked by the bookkeeper quite a bit or the office manager. And ultimately, they weren't the decision maker. So I'd find ways to try to get to that person. This was back before LinkedIn, so I would get creative and dropping off notes, cookies, believe it or not, with my card to it. I'd reference other people that I knew that they might know, that kind of thing. So that's really when I started cutting my teeth in sales and learning kind of what works, what doesn't work. I'm not the kind of guy that can sit by a phone and smile and dial. Actually, I can't stand that. So early on, I convinced my boss at ADP to let me just take 25 business cards and go walk around strip malls, industrial parks, those types of things, and introduce myself to people. And what I learned is that people do business with people they know, like, and trust, and I'm not just a talking head on a phone. And that really seemed to help me. I was kind of dubbed the foot canvassing king when I was at ADP and sold 106 payrolls in 1 year, primarily because I just knocked on doors, looked for the decision makers, and again, got in front of them as opposed to trying to, someone blocking me that couldn't give me a yes. Another thing that I find, or that I found out over the years that has really helped me is asking the right questions. I found if you ask the right questions, most of the time you're going to get the answers you want. And so when I go into a particular company, I'm going to do some pre-call planning, find out more about the individual I'm meeting with, find out if there's anybody that I know that they may know. And if I see someone on that list that they might know, I might call that person and say, hey, tell me about Joe Smith. I share on LinkedIn with them, and try to dig deeper. So when I do meet with them, I can find commonalities, build rapport quicker, and be able to have really just a business conversation. I tell people all the time, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm just here to learn about your business and to see if there's something I could potentially do to help you. And that's really how I approach my business on a daily basis. I do that a lot with my clients, my prospects, people I network with. I network with bankers, attorneys, centers of influence is what I call them. And so that has really helped me a lot over the years to build that trust. I find it to be a lot easier if I'm calling somebody and I have a common interest with them, or I know someone they know, they're more apt to take my call or respond to my email. And Brendan, I'm still trying to unmute people, so it's not letting me. I apologize. So let me think of some other things. I always try to differentiate myself from my competitors. And I do that in several ways. One, I talk about things my competitors don't talk about. Being a big accounting firm, tax and audit is really a commodity, and all accounting firms sell tax and audit. So I try to hang my hat on other things, things that I can maybe save my clients money on, like the employee retention tax credit. And I know you've probably heard about that, and everybody and their brother seems to be selling employee retention tax credits. But what makes us unique is that we bring in an attorney to write an opinion if we can't get you the traditional way to get you to qualify, the traditional way, which is the drop-in gross receipts test. If we have to go down the path of the partial shutdown rules, then we want to make sure that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's. So we're doing things that other firms just aren't doing. Again, trying to differentiate ourselves. I try to find my clients ways I can save them money. And 9 times out of 10, I can. Whether it be through our state and local tax services, whether it be through our RAS services, which are, accounts payables, accounts receivables, those types of things, looking at your process and procedures, creating efficiencies, those types of things. So I really try to find ways to help my clients, not just take from my clients. I try to be a valuable resource. I try to position myself as that guy. So having been with CBIZ over 10 years and being in the state and local tax industry for another 10 years, I've built up a great network, not just locally, but nationally, with people that I network and do business with. And so I position myself as the go-to person for my clients. So if they don't have the solution for their needs, I have them try to think of me, so that even if I can't help them, I'm introducing them to somebody else that can help them. And to me, that brings a lot of value. I find out you kind of get what you give in this business. And so I'm more apt to do business with people that want to do business with me. And so I know that sounds like an easy thing to do, but many times it's not. And being disciplined on your resource group and being able to give back, I think, is really key to getting, opportunities for yourself. I think it's important that, did I hear somebody? No? Okay, was hoping. I think it's really important to go that extra mile. An example of how I got into a big law firm was I was trying to reach the VP of IT and wanted to talk to them about a cybersecurity opportunity that we had specific with law firms. And she would never take my call. So I built a good rapport with her assistant. And one day I called and asked for her, and her assistant told me she was at a funeral. And I said, "Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. Can you share with me, was it someone close to her?" And she said it was a very close uncle. She was really upset about it and that kind of thing. So I hung up the phone and went to 1-800-Flowers and sent her flowers, a $60, $70 bouquet of flowers. And I waited a week and I called her back. And when you know it, she took my call. And I wound up meeting with her and getting a nice deal out of it. So I tell you that because not everybody does that. And to me, it just makes common sense. Like, you treat people how you want to be treated. It sounds easy, but it's amazing to me how many people don't do that. So, to recap, be a resource. Utilize the people you have around you. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you don't know something, be honest about it. Hey, I'm not sure about this. Let me find out. Let me get back to you. That's okay. People would much rather you do that than try to BS them through the process, because now you've just lost credibility. Make sure that you're getting back to people in a timely manner. I know that sounds simple, but it really isn't for a lot of people. I put reminders on my calendars every day and I color code them. Blue being a meeting, yellow being a call, orange being a conference call, green being a follow-up call, those types of things. So I know on my calendar, when I look at it immediately, it helps me stay organized. Because the busier you are as a salesperson, the more responsibilities and more things are trying to take away your time. And so by being organized, that really helps me a lot. I also focus on what's closest to business. And what I mean by that is, I could be trying to work a deal and it's taken me a long time to get in front of the decision maker, or the process is dragging on, and then I have another deal present itself. And I can notice on the front end that that deal is going to move quicker than the deal I'm currently working on. So I'll devote more energy to that particular deal because I think I'm going to get that across the finish line faster than the deal I've been working on that's kind of dragging. Not saying you forget about that, but again, it sounds simple when you follow what's closest to money from a sales perspective, and I've learned that that really helps me get things across the finish line faster. Trying to think what else would be a good opportunity for me to talk about here. Let me think. Networking is a big part of what I do. And I've actually done some training on networking, especially in my industry, because I work with a bunch of accountants. And traditionally, accountants are not really good networkers. They are accountants for a reason. So I try to get them out of their shells and give them tips and ideas about networking. I know this might sound kind of remedial, but when you're networking, be approachable. I can't tell you how many times I've been at networking events and I see someone in the corner on their phone by themselves. That person's not real approachable. Smile. I know that sounds simple, but I'd much rather go up to someone that's smiling and looks like they're having a good time than someone that's frowning and doesn't look like they're approachable or making eye contact with me. I tell people all the time, be comfortable being uncomfortable. If you're in a networking situation, everyone's there to network. So don't be afraid to go up and just talk to someone. Hi, my name's Chris. I work for CBiz. What's your name and who do you work for? I ask that question all the time. Really know your 30-second elevator speech, because you'll never know when you have those run-ins with people, even in a networking, or if you're in an elevator or you meet someone out on the street and they say, hey, so what do you do? Who do you work for? Have that 30-second elevator pitch down, right? Be confident in your process. I think that's very important. If you're not confident, your prospect or client's not going to be confident. So just, have assurance in what you're talking about, know your facts, and be confident in what you're saying. I'm a little old school, so I still have my business cards ready to go and hand out. I know a lot of people do electronically now, but again, I still like having that business card. And then I really try not to waste my time talking to someone, networking, that I feel like isn't either they're monopolizing my time or I'm not really going to get a lot out of talking to them. And I know, you have a limited time to network. So I'm not afraid to just tell somebody, hey, it was great meeting you, but I'm here to network with other people. So I'm going to try to meet some more people while I'm here. Thanks for your time. And just walk away. As long as you're polite about it, I think it's fine. And I also try to do pre-call planning before any networking event. So if there's people I know that are going to be there, or prospects I know that are going to be there, I'll go on LinkedIn. I'll try to find them on LinkedIn. I'll try to find out more information about them, learn where they went to school, people we might know in common. And that way, when I go to talk to them, I'm like, oh, hey, I checked you out on LinkedIn. I see that you know Chris Kaus or, Brennan Philb or whatever. How do you know them? And it gives you an instant credibility and talking points. Again, try to find commonality. Brennan, you're there. Finally. Are you unmuted?
I am unmuted. Hopefully you're still here. Holy cow!
I've been on a roll.
You're killing it, Chris.
I mean, I'm kind of like, I hope everyone can hear me. I feel like
you go, guy. We still have 9 people who are here that are listening and paying attention. And can I just say, you folks are awesome.
Yeah, thank you. The show must go on, they say, right?
Yeah, and look at you just now. This is an example of what makes a star producer of
Yeah.
you just
You know,
dove in there and you made it work.
you gotta improvise, right?
Yeah, and you didn't lose your cool. And I was sitting there listening, and it was funny because my phone was working, so I could hear everything, but I couldn't see anything that was going. Oh
You
my
know,
goodness.
no worries. Well, I can finish kind of my networking thing, and then if we want, can you open up? I've been trying to unmute people, but I haven't been able to. I
And
don't know if you have.
sometimes the system cooperates, but here's what I'm gonna ask is while Chris is going, chat works on this thing. So do me a favor, it's the questions tab. Locate the questions tab on the control panel and chat in questions that you have for Chris because he is so good about um, building relationships, differentiating himself, networking. I mean, he's a wealth of resources. So share with me kind of what you have always wanted to know. Let's play Stump the Teacher. So that's a fun place that we can always dive in and get started.
No,
And
for sure.
yeah, the other thing that I want to make sure that we do talk about as well is who is on your team in terms of your best relationships that you've cultivated, because that's huge. So continue with the networking piece, and
Sure.
then we'll pull in on this other stuff as well.
Yeah. So I can kind of follow that. So networking, again, I was just kind of going down my checklist in my head of things that I like to do. I always follow up with people of interest. If you tell someone you're going to follow up, follow up. Um, and and I do that in a couple ways. One, if I go in their LinkedIn profile, I might send a LinkedIn invitation, shoot them a quick email. Hey, it was great meeting you. Would love to grab coffee, that kind of thing. Um, and I had a sales manager when I first broke into sales years and years ago. Tell me, she said, Chris, you have 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth. Use them proportionately. And I've never forgotten that. And so, ask when you ask good questions, let the person you're asking the questions, let them talk. um, I find that when you do that and you show great interest, that you're more apt to build that trust. Again, people do business, they know, like, and trust. So that's something that I do quite a bit as well. And I just try to be, I mentioned earlier, a resource to people. I find if I help enough other people get what they want, I tend to get what I want. That's a page out of Zig Ziglar, who I love. I listened to him when I first broke into sales. He was a big influence in how I approach deals, and don't judge a book by its cover and that kind of thing. But as far as my network goes, Brendan, I do a lot of internal networking at CBiz. I'm blessed that I work for a big company, and I'm on the financial services side, which is, everything that falls on the audit, tax, accounting, valuation, due diligence, basically anything that touches the books. But I have a lot of partners on our employer services side, which is anything that touches the employee. So you figure payroll, HR, medical benefits, 401k, workers' comp, property casualty, those types of things. So I do a lot of networking with my counterparts, and we share opportunities and leads together, and that's very productive as well, in addition to my banking and attorney relationships.
So how many of the opportunities do you generate and bring them in versus them generating and bringing you in?
Well, I probably bring them in more than they bring me in, only because right out of college I sold payroll, I sold PEO, I know about medical benefits, I know about payroll, HR, so I have a pretty good breadth of knowledge. And so when I'm meeting with someone, I uncover a lot of opportunities. I ask a lot of good questions. And so if I uncover an opportunity like, hey, someone's not happy with their insurance carrier, oh, tell me about that. I get more information. I say, would you be open to meeting with one of my associates who works in that field? And 8 times out of 10, they say yes.
So hang on, I want everybody to really pick up on this. So you notice that Chris is not leading in with selling his service first. He's leading in with identifying what is the most compelling problem facing that business owner. And whatever the most compelling problem is, he's bringing the resource.
That's
So
exactly right.
he just happens to be within a really big company that has a lot of those resources in-house. But in addition to that, he also leverages a host of external resources as well. So
Yes,
he doesn't just play with CBiz partners. I mean, there's a lot of us that are top of mind with him as well and get a lot of calls with a, hey, I've got a business owner, let's go to lunch.
for
Because he
sure.
was talking about it being a sales challenge or a prospecting challenge or, you know, name it.
Yeah, and we are a big company, and sometimes that's a challenge for my referral partners. But I tell them, hey, listen, if you refer me a piece of business, I'm not going to talk to them about the same service you're trying to sell if it's a competitor of ours, whether it be on the employer services side or something like that. I'm not going to bite the hand that feeds me, right? So I'm really conscious about that.
And your company does respect that.
They
That's the
really
other
do.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's impressive.
I actually put that in Salesforce, which is our CRM, and I'll say, you cannot talk to this client about X, Y, and Z, and I'm the point person. If you have any questions, you call me directly. And so we're pretty good about that within CBiz as far as respecting those relationships. Absolutely.
Well, and I have a ton of clients that are there are financial advisors or bank, well, you guys don't do banking, but PNC, employee benefits, group health, all that. And some of their best referral partners are within CBiz because, the thing that they've done is recognized where the opportunity fits the best. And, my clients have a tendency to be a specialist in a particular area. Like they'll be, focusing on having a PNC risk management solution that is tied to group captives for transportation or something along those lines. So it's a case of, then it's really easy for CBiz to say, we really don't do group captives for transportation companies. So it's easy to refer these opportunities because they come in contact with a whole lot of transportation companies. So that's something else to also consider is that cooperation philosophy works incredibly well. So don't just rule out someone because, oh, they're in a big firm or they've got somebody in house that does that because, how many people are there at CBiz? How many employees do you have now, Chris?
In Kansas City, we have about 550, 600. Nationally, we have roughly 6,000.
And how many of those do you actively have a referral relationship with? Not
Gosh,
not 550.
no, um, no, I couldn't handle that.
Yeah.
Probably five solid, very good referral relationships on my employer services side. People that trust me, they bring me in, I bring them in. And to your point, if I can't help a client, I'm upfront about it. That's another thing I think that I don't try to put a square peg in a round hole. There's a lot of CBiz alum that have left CBiz and started smaller firms that focus on businesses that are too big for. So if there's a client that says, I'll tell them, hey, listen, I just don't think we're the right fit for you right now. Let me introduce you to somebody else who would be a better fit. And then on the other side of that small accounting firm might stumble into something that they're just not comfortable doing or it's too big of an opportunity for them. They'll think of me, right? So I said earlier, you get what you give. And I know that sounds very simple, but it
But
really
it's
is a
so
big
hard
part.
to do.
It really is. I mean, people don't think about it. It's funny. I get bankers knock on my door all the time. Hey, let's grab coffee. Hey, I want to look at your client list. I'm like, you want to get my attention? Put me in front of one of your clients or one of your prospects that I can talk to. You're going to get my attention then because I have 20 other bankers that want to do business with me. And I tell people that. I'm right up front, about, hey, you want to get my attention, bring me a piece of business. And I think that's okay.
Well, the other thing that you do incredibly well is in that you make that first 5 minutes count. It's kind of like you started today by, even in spite of technical difficulties, you dove right into providing value. And the thing that I've learned is whenever I put you in front of a business owner, you're kind of my avenue to a quick win, no matter what. And I'm telling
Well,
you,
thank you.
you've got so many tools in your toolkit. And the thing is you're kind of a master of leveraging those the things that other people don't do incredibly well. Like you went through the employee tax credit, but the thing is there are some elements of how CBIZ does that that are really different than what a lot of the other smaller boutique firms are doing. And the thing that you guys, I absolutely love introducing you for is everything related to tax credits. It's like you have resources available, whether somebody's looking at real estate or their property tax assessment, or there are so many of these different tax credits and incentives right now based on, I know that there's something huge right now in the most recent stimulus that came out based on the bioscience and kind of that biotech field. And I mean, you've got the people that I could call and say, hey, I've got a bio company that I'm calling on. What do you know about this? And can you go with me? Or
Sure.
can we do a joint call? Can you talk a little
Even
bit
the
about
green
how you do
credits are
that?
making the green credits are making a comeback as well. The 179D green credit. So to your point, when I sit down with a prospect or even existing client, I just ask them questions. Hey, have you thought of this? Has anyone brought this to your attention? And I try to be a resource. And 9 times out of 10, I'm going to find something that I can help you with. To your point earlier, like for example, I had a customer call me about they're adding a new facility and they wanted a cost seg study. Well, during that conversation, it was a big orthopedic practice. And so not to let that go, I said, so, hey, what have you done for the employee retention tax credit after I, determined their cost seg need? And she said, oh, well, we kind of looked at that, but I didn't think we qualify. And I said, so tell me more about that. Did you just look at the drop-in gross receipts test, or did you go down the partial shutdown rules avenue? And she said, well, no, we just looked at the drop-in gross receipts test. Well, of course, I jumped in about the partial shutdown rules and how that affected the medical industry. Lo and behold, I have a meeting set with her in early May with Sean Haggerty to talk more about the employee retention tax credit. So I'm
So,
always bringing ideas to the table like that.
and you did something right there. So if y'all remember, I was listening to Chris from the very beginning. He talked about don't let somebody give him a no that really isn't qualified. And this was the business owner that gave him the no, we haven't done that. But what Chris took is that she really wasn't qualified to give him that no because she didn't understand all of the avenues to be able to make a decision.
Yes.
And that is huge. And that's something that I really encourage you to pick up as one of his success traits. And it's something that we can adopt and he doesn't do it by saying, well, no, you don't understand. He did it by saying, have you considered this? So he is a master of asking great questions. And actually, so Matt chimed in with a question about the sales process. So what sales methodology do you follow, or what are some of your favorites that you have kind of been a student of? Because I know you are a student of what's out there and what's working.
So my process, to me, it's not rocket science. Like I just get this stuff, right? I identify an opportunity. I pursue opportunity. If during that pursuit I identify a need, I follow up on that need. I bring in the right people as it relates to help me bring that across the finish line. I always try to bring in a subject matter expert. If I don't know enough about it, I'm like, hey, Brennan, I think we can help you here. Shoot me a time when you have 30 minutes. I'm going to bring in my subject matter expert. Let's talk more about that. Bring the subject matter expert, explore that in more detail, answer any detailed questions. And from that point, I'm either going to get a yes or no, and let me think about it. Okay. So the no's are easy. Okay. I try to find out why they're saying no, because sometimes I can handle those objections. Timing, a lot of time might not be right. So I said, okay, well, maybe if timing's not right, let's kick it down the road for another 30 days and readdress it, right? Or if I get the yes, then we go, okay, well, great. What's your time frame for moving forward on this? We'd love to send an engagement letter and put together a kickoff call. And once I have that kickoff call set up, I bring in all the right people, and then that process is then kind of kicked over to our practitioners. But I still stay involved with it to make sure things get done. So I
So
kind of project manage that as well.
is that following what you learned at ADP?
Yeah, ADP was a great learning ground in that they gave you a lot of the fundamentals. I think, like anything else, right, I do things differently than maybe other people. We might get the same results. I've just found it easier to do it my way because that's the way I'm comfortable doing it. But really, if you think about it, sales is a funnel, right? You have starts broad and then it gets narrower and narrower and narrower, and then until you get the decision. And that's really in my mind when I think about that. I think of that funnel visually in my mind. Okay, right now we're here. We're identifying the opportunity. We're presenting, solutions, discussing solutions, how we can make it better, and it just filters down to where we get to that point where we're getting a decision.
So then as you think about how you're going to bring people into the funnel, so I know that you run into a lot of objections in terms of, and that actually ties into what Chris Kaus's question is, what's the biggest objection that you've received that, or actually rather than biggest, let's say the toughest to handle, and what did you do to overcome it?
So I got some stories about that. So
You have such great stories.
When I was selling payroll at ADP, I would go into industrial parks and I'd find out who in those industrial parks are my clients. And there might be 2 or 3 out of, 20 businesses, whatever. But I would literally go in to a client, maybe I didn't know them, but I'd say, hi, I'm your ADP rep, just want to introduce myself. You happy? Good, perfect. Then I'd walk next door and say, hi, I was just visiting Brendan Philbert, who's one of my clients next door. Would love to talk to you about how we're helping them with their payroll and payroll taxes, whatever it is. So I walked into a Mako, better get Mako body shop. And understand it was a 25-man weekly payroll. Now, weekly payrolls in the payroll world, that's 52 pays a year. So that's a lot of, that's a nice deal. The guy literally, was angry I showed up. He said, I got a bookkeeper. She's been with me for 20 years. We don't need you, blah, 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 blah. And so I made a note, who the owner was. He had a bookkeeper. But every time I went back to that industrial park, I would just pop in and say hi. Hey, I know you're not interested, but I was in the area, just thought I'd drop in and say hi. Well, fast forward a year later, he calls me out of the blue. He says, hey, I just found out my bookkeeper was embezzling money from me. I had to fire her. We're going to be pressing charges. I have no one to do my payroll. How quickly can you get me set up?
Wow.
So it's about planting seeds, right? So to me, a no means, I'm going to pull a Zig Ziglar here, right? No means no based on the information they have at that time. But I look at it like this, Chris. I planted a seed. I may have gotten no, but I was respectful when I went back. I kept touching them, would drop something off. Hey, I'm just in the area, just want to say hello. That kind of thing. And he remembered me, right? Just like I overcame that objection with the VP of IT at a big law firm. I called on that woman for 6 months straight. She would not take my call. I built a great rapport with her receptionist. Again, found out her uncle died, sent her flowers. The next time I called, she agreed to meet me. So objections, you just got to take them in stride. Don't take them personal. I showed up at a meeting once, and a guy who I remember specifically making the meeting with was having a really bad day. And he literally came out to the lobby and kicked me out. And I didn't take it personal, right? He's like, I
Because
don't have
it's
time
not
for you.
about you.
It's not about me, right?
Yeah.
And I'm the youngest of 8 children, so I had to deal with, negotiations at a young age, so I didn't get my butt whipped from my siblings, right? So, you know, uh, so what I did
Speak up as
was I
child.
thought, at first I was really upset. I was like, what a jerk. And then I thought, well, I don't know what happened in his world. And so I waited a week and I sent him an email and I said, hey, Jim, I know I don't know what happened. I know you're having a bad day. I'm really sorry if I upset you. It wasn't my intention. I thought we had a meeting scheduled. I hope things are better for you, whatever. And you know what? He called me and said, Chris, I'm so sorry. I was having a really bad day. He had a death in the family that morning. It was someone really close to him. I didn't ask him details, but long story short is it wasn't about me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the empathy to go back and say, hey, I'm sorry. Like, I took the blame on me. Hey, I thought we had a meeting scheduled. I'm sorry if I was wrong. Um, I find that if you just treat people how you want to be treated. I mean, everybody has a bad day. Um, objections
And
are
and you
interesting.
were so kind, Chris. That's the other thing is, I mean, most salespeople would say, okay, so and so had a death in the family. I'm just going to give them a month or two to kind of get to where they're back in the swing of things, and I'm going to try again. But by caring and thinking, you know what, acknowledging that moment in her life and being sympathetic to what she's going through just because you care. And the thing is I've seen you do this for people that they're not prospects, they will never be prospects, they are not influential with prospects, but you're just a nice guy. And
Well, thank you.
you know,
I appreciate that. Well, again, my first sales manager with ADP, I love her. Her name's Lisa Peskin. I still stay in touch with her today. She's on the East Coast, but she told me something early on in my career that always stuck with me. She goes, Chris, I can tell that you care, and you're going to go far in sales because people will know that you care, and people will do business with people that they think are genuine and actually care. And I do care. I care about my clients. I care about my banking relationships. I care about my network, my influence of network people, my family. I kind of, if I'm having a bad day, you'll probably know it, right?
mm-hmm.
But I try to be really, you know, level-headed, I guess is a good way to put it. I have my inner circle of people that I trust that I can bounce things off of and get different perspectives and ideas. And I try to do that quite a bit. I try to always put myself in that other person's shoes and what they're going through and what they're thinking. And I find that by doing that, it helps me relate to them better.
Yeah. And that I think is probably one of the biggest nuggets that I'd like for everybody to pick up from what you're sharing is there is a lot of sales that can be, you start thinking about it like a methodology. Like I did Sandler training for 4.5 years. I was a Sandler sales trainer. So I literally would have 6 to 8 hours of training per week to be a Sandler sales trainer for 4.5 years. So, and then practicing it and having coaching on it. I mean, that's the equivalent of like a master's degree in Sandler. And there were some elements about that philosophy that were fantastic, but there were also things that just felt, I don't know, almost disingenuous or like they weren't authentic. And, it's like you talk about nurturing, but you don't really spend as much time talking about caring. And I think what you demonstrate is the fact that by caring and being curious about where the client is at and where they're coming from and respecting what they're giving you and then continuing to ask the questions about, okay, so what are you basing that belief on, or what are you basing that decision on, or have you considered this, or are you aware of that? So you've done an incredible job of really understanding not only the technical aspects of what you do, but also the nuances of where it fits into your customer's business. And I think the one thing that I've noticed about you, and the reason I invited you to do this today, not just because you think well on your feet and you make a mean Manhattan at the happy hours, but you also, it's you just really keep pulling the thread until you get down to what it is that they really think about a particular matter, and then expand from there, and then you go where it leads. You don't have, you're not coming in with okay, this is the only thing I can sell.
Yeah, I got another great story about that too. So I was working for a state and local tax consulting firm back east, and I landed a meeting with the tax director at Clark Construction Company down in Bethesda, Maryland. Now, Clark Construction, for those who don't know, it's one of the biggest construction companies in the whole United States. They're huge. So I hopped on a train from Wilmington, Delaware, took the train to Washington, D.C., jumped in the path over to Bethesda, then cabbed it to my lunch meeting. And I sat down with the tax director, and I said, hey, Frank, before I tell you everything you never wanted to know about Ducharme, McMillan and Associates, tell me what's top of mind for you. What are things that are keeping you up at night right now? And he looked at me surprised, and he said, Chris, you're the first person that's ever asked me that. He goes, I had 3 partners from PwC take me to lunch yesterday. Every partner asked me, or every partner told me what they were going to do for me. Not one of them asked me what I wanted or what I needed. So just because I said, hey, what's top of mind for you? I don't want to go down a path that you don't want to talk about. Tell me what's important to you. He had just gotten a sales and use tax audit notice from the state of Maryland. And so we did a reverse audit and saved him, I don't know, $500,000. So it's just asking the questions, being inquisitive. Tell me more about that. What do you mean by that? Ask those second, third level questions. Don't be so superficial. And to your point, pivot, right? Hey, I know you want to talk about cost seg, and we're going to help you with that. And after we're done that conversation, I'd like to ask you something else. Can you give me a few more minutes? Okay, great. And that's exactly what I said to this woman at the orthopedic practice that now we're going to probably do an ERTC project for. So don't be afraid to ask the questions. What I think is amazing is that people are afraid to ask the questions. The answer is always no, unless you ask. Always. Right? And ask for the business. Hey, what do you think? Do a trial close. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this? Is it you see yourself using this, or do you feel like we would be a good match for you?
Or what should we do next? I mean,
right, or what are next steps? Or do you have any hesitation? Give me what you're thinking. Because I can't address objections unless I know what they are. So it's asking what those objections are. Hey, I see you have that kind of puzzled look on your face. Tell me what you're thinking. It's just to me, again, I feel like I just do this every day. It just comes natural to me. I know a lot of people it doesn't, especially people in my field.
Well, and the thing I think that we get happy ears a lot, where it's you hear some positive things in the call, and then you think, hot diggity dog, I got one. And what you're savvy enough, and you've been here enough, and you've lost out on enough deals to recognize that if you leave a meeting feeling good, you didn't ask the right question.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I always ask, what are next steps?
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? I never just hang. Oh, thanks for the call. I see that. But so what are you doing next? Oh, I don't know. Well, why didn't you ask them? It's just. Yeah, I mentor a few people here at CBiz, and it's funny. We went to the Acumatica conference about a month ago. Me and one of the guys I mentor. And Acumatica is in the cloud ERP system. But I went up to probably 20 different vendors that work with Acumatica, and started asking them questions about their business and how it works, what they do. Just real inquisitive. And then from that, I gained enough information to start talking about, hey, have you thought about this, this, or this, or this? And they're like, no, I haven't. But I gave them ideas on how to help their clients.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big win. And so if you're giving ideas out,
Now then, what did you do from there with those contacts? How many of them are you continuing now to nurture after the
all of
conference?
them,
Yeah.
all of them, all of them. Yeah, I'd say it was probably of the 10 of them, I thought 10 of the 20 that I felt like, okay, I'm going to invest my time here. I keep in touch with every one of them.
Yeah. And define your keeping in touch.
So I try to touch people that I meet. So I have, well, there's different levels, right? So I have my inner circle, which I touch probably weekly. Then I have like that next circle of people I probably touch monthly, and then the next circle quarterly, and then maybe semi-annually and annually. But the people that influence my business and that I think can help me get business, I'm touching probably once or twice a month.
And the thing that's impressive about how you do this is it is truly meaningful. You know, it's a case of you're giving something, you're sharing an article, you're sharing something that CBiz puts out, you're sending a text message, you're picking up the phone and calling out of the blue. You know, it's crazy, but that works really well, doesn't it?
I made 2 phone calls this morning that were, I would say, lukewarm, like a passive introduction. I picked up the phone, made 2 phone calls, landed 2 meetings, and I think I'm going to get 2 potential good deals out of it. To give an example, so one of the vendors of Acumatica, they do accounts payables. And I started talking to him. I said, you know, have you ever used a firm to go into your clients before they implement your software to clean up their accounts payable, their accounts payables, so that you get clean data into your firm, into your software? And they said, no, we'd never thought of that. And I said, well, let me ask you this. I go, would it be useful to you if a firm like CBiz could go in there, do an accounts payable review, clean up all the data, get all the bad data out of there, maybe even save your client money by getting the money back from their vendors? That way, when it's time for you to do implementation, you get nothing but clean data coming in. Would that be helpful? And they're like, oh my God, yes. No one's ever asked them that question.
There's a quick win.
So now they're referring me to their clients before they bring them in on to say, hey, you need to talk to Chris at CBiz for him to do an accounts payable review for you before we migrate your data over to our software. It's thinking out of the box. Any more questions?
Yeah, there's actually another one. So, okay. Oh, this one's a good one. So, it's what tips or advice do you have for people that are, you know, bankers, insurance brokers, financial planners that want access to your clients, but they're really not coming to you with anything. They just want access to clients and your time. So, there's a comment here that I get all of these requests and they're a waste of time because nothing ever comes out of them the other direction.
It happens to me a lot too. I get financial planners calling me all the time. You know, I've had an influx of those people wanting me to start a franchise, right?
What is up with that?
I don't know. I probably get hit up once a week with someone wanting me to start a franchise.
We should
so this is what I do.
The most innovative approach, because I mean, with me, it's probably once or twice a week too.
Yeah. So this is what I do, because I'm in sales, and I'm just brutally honest with them. I do it in a very polite way. Like if I don't want to waste my time with someone, I'm like, I know I'm not going to do business with this person. I tell them, thank you so much for reaching out. I truly appreciate it. I'm just uninterested at this time. If that should change, I'd be happy to call you back. I will, add you to my professional network on LinkedIn, but I'm just not interested. But I do that because at least they know I've acknowledged them. I've given them my answer, and I'm still on LinkedIn with them. So if down the road I change my mind, or I might have someone say, hey, I'm looking to start a franchise. Do you know anybody that you can turn me on to? I'm like, actually, I do. Now I can make a referral, right? But I tell people all the time, don't be afraid to say no to salespeople. Actually, as a salesperson, I would much prefer someone say, Chris, I'm just not interested right now. Great. Thank you for telling me. Is there, can I follow up with you in 6 months just to see how things are going? Yeah, that'd be great. Perfect. That way I
And
know I'm not bugging you. You've acknowledged me, right? And I know that maybe 6 months down the road, I'm going to readdress it and see if anything's changed. But if you just ignore a salesperson, they're going to keep coming. That's what they do.
yeah. Well, and so my strategy, and this goes back with that bankers and financial advisors and everything else, what I do, and this may be helpful for you, Matt. The approach that I take is I am happy to connect with anyone. And what I do is I will send them a Calendly link and say I do treat LinkedIn a little bit differently, or I treat relationships a little bit differently, and that I do like to understand who I'm connected to. So how about we hop on a short 15-minute conversation just so I can better understand who you are and how I can help you through my connections or otherwise. I send them my Calendly link. We get on a call for 15 minutes. And I open up the call with how are you hoping I could be helpful for you? And I mean, if it's a salesperson, they're going to dive right in with, hey, we think you would be perfect for XYZ. Or they dive in with, your clients are probably really in need of, and then they trot out their spiel. And what I have a tendency to do is I'm going to give somebody, that 5 minutes or so and say, thank you so much. I appreciate you reaching out. I'm going to make a note on you in my CRM and what you do. And if the opportunity comes up where one of my clients asked for XYZ, then I'm happy to make an introduction and I appreciate you reaching out. Normally, Matt, you're off the phone within 5 minutes with these people because they've checked the box. They can now report to their boss that, hey, I checked in with my center of influence relationships today and even talked to some new ones, go me. But the thing is out of all of those calls, you're going to have 10 conversations and one of them is going to say, you know what, Brendan, I'm just really interested in what you're doing and who you serve. And I like the content that you're sharing and I'd like to learn more and maybe we can potentially collaborate. And then they start asking questions of me. This is actually how Chris and I met years and years ago. He reached out something similar. And in that first 15 minutes, he demonstrated so much value through the questions that he asked. I was like, you know what? Let's go do breakfast. And then we met for breakfast at First Watch. And when we came to breakfast, he knocked my socks off because he brought a file folder that he opened it up and he had gone into my LinkedIn profile and had identified the shared contacts and connections we had. He had looked at my recommendations and said, I see you're working with this client. They're actually a client of ours as well. And who else do you work with that is in this particular situation? And then, he just laid it up where it was like the absolute perfect serve for me to open a door for him. And he made it so easy for me to help him that I was delighted to develop him as a referral partner because not only did he come in to the meeting with this is who you're working with that's a great client of ours, but he also came in with the perspective of, I also see that you're working with this company, and this business owner. These are a few of my connections that may be beneficial for you. Would you like to meet them? So, that's something else that you might consider. Two different strategies. They're both going to work well for you. But I'm all about the give somebody 10 to 15 minutes, leverage Calendly. But I'm also big on I don't give a lunch meeting to anybody unless we've had that initial conversation, unless they have been highly recommended by someone like Chris or one of my other fantastic referral partners. that they've already had that initial pre-qualification meeting and they've recognized that this person is not a one-way street. So
That's
hopefully
brilliant. That's exactly right. Yeah, pre-call planning, right?
I love
Asking
that.
good questions gets you the answers you usually want. Um, you know,
Yeah.
it's interesting because when I do training for accountants, um, which is always interesting, but they don't get it. Like the thing I hear all the time, I don't want to come off like I'm too salesy or a used car salesman. And then I put it in there. I kind of turn it on them and I say, okay, so if there was one of your clients and there was, let's say for example, an ERTC opportunity, and you didn't want to come off too salesy and call them and say, hey, I have this opportunity that might save you money. Let's set up a time to grab lunch. I'll tell you more about it because you're a center of influence, right? I'm going to take the call from my accountant if they call me and say, hey, I have a way I can maybe save you some money. I'm like, yeah, I'm all ears, right? So I say, understand there's guys like me at other firms that are trying to get in to see your clients. And if you're not bringing relevant content to your clients on a regular basis, sharing them ideas, whether it be ERTC or credits and incentives or ways that we can save you money through an AP review or telecom audit or a CAM lease, whatever it is, there's people like me out there that are going to be in there. And now you just opened the door to your competitor. And once they realize that, you kind of see a light bulb going like, oh my gosh, like I didn't think of it like that. Exactly. Right?
And I hope that if everybody that's listening, if you take nothing else out of today, if you do not serve your clients in all avenues related to their business, someone else will. And that someone else may be attached to a relationship that is a competitor, and they're going to drive a wedge because they're demonstrating the fact that they do care and that they're bringing just a little bit more than is expected. And that is what is keeping clients happy today. And it's also what's getting you in the door. The other thing right now, and I do want to wrap us up because we are running late. So I want to wrap it up with just a couple of words as far as nuggets as a summary based on what we've heard from Chris today. And I want you to think about how you're going to apply these lessons in your own business development approach. So the thing that he has shared today is the fact that it's just one more question that he just keeps asking. And he doesn't ever stop with the initial conversation. He's always looking for what is immediately adjacent to the solution that he's working on. He's bringing in a quick win so that he can wow them with the experience. Once he gets in the door, he never lets an opportunity slip that he's not following up and following through. He also is prepared and ready for conversations. So he doesn't just show up. Now he doesn't just show up for that conversation that says, what's keeping you up at night? He's leading in with, I see you have 75 employees, and I also see that you're here. Have you taken advantage of this opportunity and this opportunity and this opportunity based on what his firm can provide? And then if he doesn't get the play he's looking for, he takes it just a little bit further with a, what is your understanding of this? Because there are a lot of people that have made assumptions about some of these solutions that are inaccurate. And if their assumption is based on false data, then he's not going to let it stop with that. So he doesn't quit. And then the other thing is he gives a damn, he just cares a lot, and he's going to bring value to these relationships and deliver a quick win with everyone. So Chris, this has been absolutely amazing. And thank you so much for tap dancing through the first 20 minutes because, and my lesson of the day is get off a GoToWebinar because holy cow, what a royal pain in the tuchus this was. And I want to say thank you to everybody that was patient through this and understanding of the tech. And I'm hopeful that you learned something amazing and extraordinary from Chris. Chris, go ahead, do me a favor. What I'm going to do, I'm going to send you the attendee list from today. And I would recommend that you connect on LinkedIn. And those of you that are on this call, if you have not connected one-to-one with Chris, do so, because
Please, I'd
it
be
will
happy
be
to
an
talk to
amazing
you.
conversation.
Yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I looked up almost everyone I could find. There were several people with the same names, and I tried to narrow it down to, Kansas City, and sometimes there wasn't anybody in Kansas City that was on the list, so I just did the United States, and there's like 300. So
Yeah, we have people from all over the country on the call
yeah.
today. So I see
So
folks
if you're
on
not
here from
connected with
East
me,
Coast, West
please
Coast.
look me up on LinkedIn. It's Christian Scheckinger, CBiz, and happy to connect. I think actually I'm grabbing coffee with Jim Fee this Friday, I believe. So looking forward
Perfect.
to meet. Yeah.
And you should
So,
definitely connect with Chris Kaus as well, because I think you guys could have a lot of fun collaborating. And
well,
as
Chris
I'm
and I are
looking
good
through,
friends, and great guy. Would absolutely recommend people connecting with him as well.
and do you
Um,
know Carlin Yeager?
I don't. I
Oh
saw
my
his.
goodness. Okay, well, there's my gift for the day. Is you and Carlin would have ever so much fun. Carlin is an expert in that bioscience and biotech, and is one of the relationships that we're doing some brainstorming on how to leverage some of those tax credits. And you're going to be hearing more from Angela and I think tomorrow, where we do some brainstorming on this. So
Great. Looking forward to it.
yeah, this is going
Thank
to
you,
be
everybody. I appreciate you taking the time. Sorry I couldn't see you, and sorry for the initial hiccup there, but I'm glad we were able to get through it, and look forward to meeting you all.